welcome back to the Fumble Live. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're talking about Paul George and how Shaq thinks that there's still room for the athlete to prove himself. We're also getting into the Milwaukee Bucks and what they might be doing about their head coach. But before we dive in, subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JRayTheFanatic.
Jackie, happy hump day. How is the packing going? Are you making some good progress? Are you getting more and more excited?
I should get my official approval today, and then I'll be more excited. But right now, I'm just one of those persons that until every I is dotted and every T is crossed, I'm like, I don't know. I can't see any reason why I wouldn't get approved, but I'm like, okay. I'll just wait for Mike. And then once I get approved, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm approved. I get to my new place. But I'm dragging today. Like everything this morning was just like a huge hurdle for me just to get out of bed. I was like, yeah, so I just need that approval to come through so I can move on to the next chapter in my life.
Girl, I feel you. Today has been a struggle for me as well. I have the worst headache of my life at the moment. So I'm currently dying. That's okay. We have to get some sports news. We have to tell you guys what's going on. So my headache can wait, but I do have, as usual, a giant mug filled to the brim with coffee. And, that typically does help me get rid of my headaches, opens up those blood vessels, gets the blood flowing and pumping through my brain. So hopefully I'll be feeling better by the end of the show. Let's jump into
real quick, because I see Jeremiah Stay Mad asked the question. And yes, Challenge Accepted comes on today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's what, like 4 p.m. if you're on the East Coast? I think, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. I'm super excited, you guys. So please tune in. Tell me what you think. Make sure you get involved, and maybe I can use your fan challenge for next week's show, because like I said, Chris is going to be on next week. So super, super excited about that. That'll pep me up a little bit, because otherwise I was like dragging.
Yes, I totally get that. Jackie, I'm super excited to check out your show. I haven't been able to see it yet, so I'll be watching it for the first time, as all of you guys, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do not forget to look into that. And then also, it'll be really nice to see Chris back on the channel next week. That'll be so much fun for him, for you, for the fans. So I love that. Also, I just want to say Jeremiah Smith put it in the chat that we must have talked to his doctor, because they're making him take anger management class now. And honestly, I think that's a really good thing for you, Jeremiah, and I'm really happy for you. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you walk out of that feeling good.
I had to take anger management. I don't know how old you are, Jeremiah, but I was in anger management classes from 16 to 18. It took 2 years for it to take, so I ain't mad at you. Just go to the class, put in the work.
Jackie, I didn't know you took anger management classes.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I never had an issue. It's personally because I would just tell people what I thought. But people are soft and they're sensitive. So, my teachers at school were like, you just can't say that to people. I'm like, that's how I felt. So they threw me in anger management classes, and the anger management classes actually made me angry, because I was like, this is dumb. This is stupid. I'm not angry. I just said what I said. And so it took 2 years for me to actually get to the point where I could fake it enough so they would let me out of that damn anger management class.
Jackie, I just want to point out how different we are as people. You're over here and you're like, people are too soft and sensitive. And I'm like, hi, I'm soft and sensitive. I can't handle anything. People ask me, can you handle constructive criticism? And I'm already crying. And I'm like, yes, just tell me. I'm not good at it. It's so funny. But hey, that's why we balance each other out. And I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, so Jackie, this year has been an unusual one for you, because we have found you agreeing with Shaquille O'Neal more than you ever have before. And I'm curious what you're going to say about this next Need to Know news update. So Shaq thinks that Paul George needs to continue proving himself. So obviously after that disappointing postseason run for the Clippers last year, Paul George now seems like he's kind of on this revenge tour. He's playing like he has a chip on his shoulder. He's more efficient than he was in the bubble, and I think that's been exciting for fans of Paul George and for Clippers fans in general. On Inside the NBA, they talked about whether or not Paul George was back to his normal self, and Shaq does not think so, or at least he thinks that there's still time for Paul George to prove that he's back to his normal self. So Shaq was talking and said that when he entered the league, Paul George made a really good impression, but as his career went on, he struggled to live up to that hype, especially in the postseason. So he thinks that Paul George hasn't really solidified his reputation until we see him have a super strong playoff run, postseason run. So check out the clip here of Shaq talking about Paul George.
You know, in the postseason is where you make your name. So I'm hoping, because I like Paul George, I'm hoping the consistency can roll over into the playoffs.
It's a short clip. It was long, and Shaq talks really, really slow. So I'm going to summarize what he said a little bit. We can only show so much of what people say. And with Shaq, when we try to use a Shaq clip, it's like if we can only play 10 seconds, we get about 3 words in. So it's just like
every word, a whole thought, and cause I'm Shaq.
You know what I think about all the time, Jackie, is how you said that he talks like he has marbles in his mouth, and he does. It's weird. I don't get it. Anyway, so Shaq did make a point to acknowledge Paul George's great regular season. He says that he stepped it up for the Clippers, but does he bring up a good point when he says that he needs to really prove himself in the postseason? Because we've seen a lot of great regular season players struggle when they reach postseason games, and that's when it matters most. That's what happened with Paul George last season. We know he was dealing with those mental health issues. So do you agree that it's his postseason that matters, his postseason performance that matters the most, and does he have more to prove, Jackie?
So I think the postseason always, I see people who are just kind of casual fans of basketball, and I get it. It's 82 games. It's a lot. But they always say, you know, let me see what you do in the postseason, because number one, that's when more eyes are on you, number one. So that's when you really need to perform. And number two, if you've gotten to the playoffs, that's great. Now you need to step up. So I know we always talk about LeBron's playoff juice. I don't think he's the only one who drinks playoff juice. Every team in some way, shape, or form needs to step up in the postseason, because that's the most important time. That's going to be what carries you through to that championship. So what we saw from Paul George, unfortunately, is going to, while he was in the bubble, that's going to follow him until it doesn't. That's going to follow him until he proves that narrative wrong. And as much as I know that we support him and stand up for him as far as what he went through with the mental health issues, that's still a problem. You know, because if you didn't have these mental health issues in the regular season, then you hit postseason, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know, I have these mental issues. That's going to be a problem, because you can't blame that. You can't blame your mental health issues on anything you lack in the postseason this season, because you're not in the bubble. Number one. Number two, you've had all this time to get help with it. Your teammates tried to help you with it. You should have gotten some help on your own with it. So now he really has to step up. Ty Lue seems to have a lot of confidence in Paul George. He has said openly that he is really happy with what he's seeing, you know, from Paul George late in the season. So I think that's a good thing. And Paul George does strike me as the kind of guy, you know, especially when you do have mental health issues, you need to hear that kind of encouragement. But even Paul George himself, I think it was day before yesterday, he said that he's not worried about anybody else. He's not worried about any other team. He's worried about himself and the Clippers and what they do. And that's kind of the attitude and the mindset you want him to have. So I really do. I mean, let me be clear. I want him to fail in the postseason because, you know, my Lakers. But as a human being and as an individual, I want him to kind of outgrow this narrative about him that he disappears in the postseason, because that is a hard narrative to live past. James Harden, he's just now starting to live past that, you know, and technically we don't even know if he's going to live past that, because, you know, this is a new time. He's been out for a while with an injury himself. So we need to see if he lives past that. But once you start going missing in the postseason, that follows you a lot. And like I said, it follows you until it doesn't. And this needs to be the year that he stops having that narrative follow him around.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the kind of thing that definitely will follow you for the rest of your career, especially if it happens over and over again. Let's talk about the Clippers in general. Last season, the Battle of LA was like the most hyped up thing ever. Of course, it didn't really come to fruition in the way that I think a lot of people anticipated. But do you think that they're experiencing more or less pressure this season?
I'm gonna say it's less pressure because they hyped themselves up. Like I still feel, I think I'm still a little salty about them billboards they had all over the city, kind of claiming it as their city. You have been the little brother of LA since day one. And so they made this whole thing. And then it wasn't just Paul George. I think we give a little bit more of a forgiveness to Kawhi because he is Kawhi. We've seen him be clutch in moments. So we kind of just counted this as a one-off. But Kawhi went missing too. Him and Paul George in the fourth quarter, they just was gone, ghosts. So it wasn't just Paul George. And that's one of those things I say, okay, if Kawhi's leadership is only on the floor and you go missing, then what? You know, so it wasn't just Paul George. I think there's no pressure on them as much this season because now the way we think about them has kind of gone back to the way we thought about them before. You know, last season we were like, oh yeah, they're the team to beat. They're the team to beat. And then Denver went in there and was like, no, they're not. And then now we just kind of think about them the same way we thought about them before. So now they can get that ball rolling because I haven't even heard anybody except for Stephen A. Smith talk about the Battle of LA. And even he was talking about it like, I guess it would be cool to see. But last season was the season we needed to see the Battle of LA because last season is when we all bought into the hype and thought the Clippers were all of a sudden this super team. We all thought it. I know people aren't claiming it now, but we all thought it. And then they couldn't even get past Denver. So I think the pressure is completely off because if they lose again, people are going to be like, oh, okay, well, you know, they're the Clippers. If they win, it's going to be like, okay, you know, they're back. So, you know, no, it's no pressure. I mean, they should have pressure on themselves, Paul George specifically, because of the way, you know, the narrative that's around him. But as far as how we look at them, we went back to thinking of them the way we thought of them before they put them damn billboards up. So they're good.
Yeah, you know, it is interesting. A lot of these, sorry, there's a bad echo for some reason. I think that for a lot of teams, when they do go into one season or into the playoffs with very high expectations like the Clippers did, if they kind of leave early, I feel like a lot of people have this optimism that there's going to be a comeback season next season, but I haven't noticed that with the Clippers as much, and maybe it's because we're not part of Clipper Nation or whatever, but I haven't even noticed much of a conversation about like, okay, this is a comeback season, they're gonna take it back or whatever. I don't know, I don't really understand why, but to me it seems like the Battle of LA, it exists because there are two teams here in LA, and that's just going to be the nature of like how we look at sports here. But I think that it's just not even as intense. It's not as crazy as it was before. And do you agree with that, or how do you feel about the Battle of LA conversations? Do you think that they're just completely over now? I know you said Stephen A. Smith is pretty much the only one you hear talking about it.
Yeah, like I said, and I think some of that too. You know, we haven't really talked about anything but the Nets for a while. You know, when the Nets went out here and did what they did, that became the whole conversation, which again put the Clippers, you know, in behind the scenes, you know. And then of course it was, can LA run it back? Can the Lakers run it back? That's all you heard. And then it was like, oh God, you know, AD and LeBron are hurt. What's going to happen? No one's really again, I'm not a part of Clipper Nation, so no disrespect if you are. And if there is a whole conversation that you guys are having, please let us know, because I have not heard it. I have not heard any conversations about the Clippers. The whole narrative right now, and it's interesting. I saw Kevin Pryor in the chat. It's interesting because we're literally talking about the Nets and the Knicks. You know, that's kind of been the main conversation. And then the Lakers. What are they going to be able to run it back? What does it mean? Whether you think the Lakers will run it back or not, those are the dominant conversations in the NBA right now, is what's going to happen with those three franchises. So again, that takes a lot of the pressure off of the Clippers, but it also shows the Clippers. I saw somebody say, well, yeah, Kawhi did great at the start. Nobody cares how you start. Let me just let you guys know that now. Nobody cares how you start. It's how you finish. And they did not finish in the way that would warrant a conversation right now. And so that lack of finish that they had last season is just kind of carrying them through right now. They didn't have the right chemistry. Like I said, Kawhi and Paul George went missing. It was just a lot. And then you said that Trez was the cancer. You got rid of Trez. We still haven't seen the chemistry step up the way that it should. So there's just too many what's going on over there questions that are lurking over the Clippers to really put them in that conversation. If they get past that, if they do make it to the Western Conference Finals, now the narrative will change. But it won't change unless they make it to the Western Conference Finals. If they make it to the Western Conference Finals and then they lose, then that conversation still goes back to, oh, it's just the Clippers.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on.
Take that back. The conversation changes from, oh, it's just the Clippers to, oh, it's just the Clippers and is Kawhi leaving? I totally believe that's the next conversation if they lose again.
You're right about that. I think that's the conversation too. I mean, that's what we've talked about that so many times on our show, that if they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, Kawhi is definitely going to be looking into other options. I would not be surprised if that happened. I don't think that he feels this deep loyalty to the Clippers franchise. I think that he feels a deep loyalty to himself to win another ring. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's talk about the Bucks, because they might be undergoing a big change too. So head coach Mike Budenholzer took a lot of heat for the team's playoff performance in the bubble last year, because they were dominating in the regular season, but then they really just didn't have any answers for the Miami Heat, who beat them in 5 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And if the Bucks experience the same kind of struggles in this year's playoffs, then the head coach will be looking for a new job. This is all according to The Athletic. So a lot of what was called into question when it comes to Mike Budenholzer and his coaching style was his rotations, his inability to adjust, and for his reluctance to put people like Giannis in to play more minutes in the playoffs. And all of that was taken into consideration when they were trying to get Giannis to sign that extension, and that did work. They were successful in doing that, but they still have all of these questions about their coach. So with the playoffs approaching, he's under a lot of pressure to succeed and to prove himself in the same way that Paul George is. This is like the prove yourself show today, I feel like. He's definitely been a bit more experimental this season. He's made some changes that could help in the playoffs. And we are seeing that the regular season record is not quite as dominant as it was last season. But if these tweaks work in the postseason, I feel like people, like we've said, it's how you end that matters. The playoffs matter more. They will, be focusing more on that. But if they have a first round exit, the belief is that Coach Mike is going to be fired. Same with the second round exit. And that's tough because the Bucks are currently slated to face the Nets in the second round. They currently have the 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. They beat Brooklyn twice, but James Harden was sidelined for those games, so I'm not sure how much that really means. But let's talk about this. Do you think that the Bucks deserve this kind of slander, Jackie?
This one, I guess my short answer is yes. And I hate slander against the Bucks, because I think as a franchise goes, they're a good franchise. However, you guys last season drugged me in the chat. I don't know if you're going to drag me again, but Giannis was asked specifically, because that was my problem that I saw in the playoffs. You didn't make some of the switches that I felt that they needed to make. You didn't shut down Jimmy Butler when you could have shut him down with an easy switch. And a reporter asked, I can't remember who it was, but a reporter did ask Giannis, like, why didn't you guys make some switches? Why didn't you guys change it up? And Giannis said, well, because I play what coach wants me to play. And I had a huge problem with that statement. And I was like, hell no, that's not what you say, because I don't care what. And I'm not even talking, of course, LeBron, KD, Kawhi, all these players, I think that their basketball IQ is high enough that if they see something's not working, at some point they're going to go against the grain. We've seen this time and time again, and they're just going to take control of the game themselves. And the fact that Giannis saw that there was a problem and something was not working, and he was like, I just do what I'm told. That bothered me. That made me question his leadership. And I get it, it's the coach's job, blah, 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 blah. But again, as a player, if I know that I can just make this one switch over here and I can shut down Jimmy Butler really quick, I'm gonna make the damn switch, because I'm trying to win a game. So there was a level of disconnect for me. But at the same time, if Giannis is that kind of player, if he's that kind of player that, I'm going to play the position my coach told me to play, I'm going to do what my coach tells me to do, then I agree with what Kevin Pryor said in the chat, that you literally have to go to the finals to save this man's job, because he hasn't. A lot of coaches, I think, in the NBA, they get off a little easy because they do have guys that they'll make the adjustments on their own and they'll kind of fix what's wrong on their own. And so they get off a little easy. If what Giannis said is true, the Bucks aren't that team. So you have to make the right calls as a coach to make sure you put each guy in the best position to succeed. And we did not see that in the bubble. We did not see that at all because, again, everybody levels up at least everybody should level up in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. So yeah, you guys were great in the regular season, but then when everybody got their playoff juice and their playoff dinners, y'all just was having snacks because you didn't perform right. So yes, you do have to go to the finals, in my opinion, to save this man's job. But you're talking about you got to get past the 76ers, you got to get past the Nets, and I don't know. I think this is a situation where, yes, you need to take control. If you see the coach isn't calling something right, you got to take control because you are the two-time MVP, even though I think you only should be one. But you are the two-time MVP. It's your job. You got to save the team. This is your job. So it's interesting to see how this one's going to play out because I love Giannis. There's nothing about Giannis I don't love. And, he's definitely got to step up and be the leader for this team that I think he can be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember when Giannis said that, and we all agreed that, it's good to be a team player. It's good you don't want to constantly be arguing or questioning your head coach, but at the same time, when you are the superstar of a team, you have to be able to take initiative and take ownership over certain plays and figure out where you can fit in or make a change, even if it's not necessarily what you've been told to do. So I think it needs to be a balance of both. So if you had to guess, Jackie, what would you expect the Bucks to do in the playoffs? Do you think it will be a first or second round exit?
So there's a lot of things that need to happen. There's a lot of question marks for me in the East. The 76ers are starting to look really, really good. The Nets have not quite developed into the team that I think they can be. Like you said, James Harden is out. So I can't really call, I'm going to need these last couple of games of the regular season to really be able to answer that question with a level of confidence. The Bucks, if they do what they're supposed to do, I saw Jeremiah in the chat. He said one of the reasons that Giannis didn't switch up is because he didn't want to get exposed and show the world that he couldn't handle Jimmy Butler. Okay, but then again, you still have to make that switch. You still have to, and then just see. And then if you can't handle it, let's switch again and let's see who can handle Jimmy Butler. You just keep switching until you get it right. And if they stick to the norm, if they just play, because here's the thing, and here's what I think people forget. The reason why a lot of teams do get much better in the playoffs is because they do change things up. Because now I have a whole season of tape on you. It's easy for me to figure you out if I have a whole season of tape on you. You have to switch things up. So if the Bucks go in there doing what they've been doing, I see them as a second round exit. Who do they play first? I gotta look it up. I don't know who they would play first.
But I know it's the Nets in the second round.
So the Nets would be their second game in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be a second round exit for sure. If they play the same way that they've been playing. So I see them as a second round exit. And if they are a second round exit, I mean, they got a new coach next season for sure. There's just because how do you have the two-time MVP on your team and then I don't know. I think it's a second round exit and then it's a new coach next season. But some of that still get a new coach in there that Giannis is just going to listen to on bated breath and never take control of the situation. I don't think it's going to be any different.
Yeah. Well, maybe seeing the coach leave, getting a new coach would encourage him to take more of a strong leadership role on the team, because I do think that is what needs to happen. But let's wrap up Need to Know News. Jackie, what is happening in the post-up?
The post, anytime Devin and I do some weird thing going into the post-up, no, that's us trying to get our energy up. I have figured us out. Okay, so this first one though is I'm gonna follow suit with AD. First of all, AD plays a lot of, what is this? Call of Duty. I don't want to call it wrong because I don't want gamers getting mad. The shoot 'em up game, he plays it a lot. He's on the phone and LeBron's calling him and he's playing it. He's just on some random chat and he's playing it. He's on this again and he is saying what he's going to do when. He didn't say if. He said when the Lakers win again, this is what he's going to do. So check this out.
That dude did say blonde strike though. Hey, if we win it, when we win a chip this year, we got one right here.
Check. Reposition.
When we win a chip, I'm gonna get a blonde strike like Dennis. All right, chat. I gotta lock in right now though. My team getting mad at me.
So, first person shooter. Yes. So this is funny to me because I expected everyone in the chat to be like, win, or on this Twitter feed saying, when you win. But no, people were so mad at his internet because that's how I knew it was straight gamers who were watching, or watching this feed or doing this tweet because they were so mad at his Twitter, has his internet speed. He says, how can you be a multimillionaire and you can't buy a competent computer? I was like, okay, let me scroll a little more. Somebody's going to talk about this blonde streak. Nope. AD is running 10 FPS and then said, for real, he's using his neighbor's Wi-Fi. People were so mad that he was playing this game and it was choppy internet. Y'all be serious about this game and I love it. I see you guys in the chat. And when I'm going to take AD's energy, I'm not going to say if because he did not say if. But he said when the Lakers win, he's going to get this blonde streak. If AD gets this blonde streak, I'm going to get a blonde streak as well. It's going to be different for me, though, because I could just put a blonde extension in and take it out. But I'm going to do it. If AD does a blonde streak, I'm going to do a blonde streak as well. But the reaction, Devin, are you surprised that there was nobody on this Twitter feed giving him hell about saying the Lakers were going to win, about the blonde streak? Everyone was mad at his internet speed. What is happening here?
I feel like this just goes to show how intense gamers are because they can't even focus on what he's saying. They can just focus on what's happening on the screen. And that's like the thing that's going to make them the most mad. So I think it's very humorous. I have friends who are super into like Call of Duty and Warzone and all that. I don't play those kinds of games, but it's like they can't think of anything else outside of that. They're so focused in on everything that nothing else matters for 12 hours a day. I'm like, God, how do you do that? It's insane.
I can't. Just a thought. I can't. I cannot. But all right. So I see you in the chat. Zen Master says he's got Utah versus Denver in the Western Conference Finals. Okay, we've marked it. Let's see how this ages. And Kevin with the shade, he says, I think AD's hair is safe. Lakers have seen some serious issues. Coaching change might not be out of impossibility if the Lakers don't get to the Western Conference Finals. So we've got another coach on the move if you're listening to Kevin Pryor. I mean, you guys know I've not been a fan of Frank Vogel because Frank Vogel is not a coach to me. He's a cheerleader. But he pretty much he's just a cheerleader. So I wouldn't be mad if that. So we're going to mark that one too and see if either of you guys are right about the Western Conference Finals. But now let's get into this one because I love corny jokes. Okay, can we get Devin up on the screen really quick? Because I'm gonna tell her a corny joke and see if she gets it. Okay, you ready? So,
oh God,
name a rock band, but none of them sing. A rock band where no one is a singer. It's a rock band, but no one actually sings.
Like a rock climbing wall? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what you're just saying.
Mount Rushmore. Get it?
Oh.
All right.
Okay, that was good.
That's my corny joke. Now let's get KAWHI. KAWHI, take it away. Because this joke is actually really good. It makes you think. So KAWHI, take it away with the corny yet intelligent corny joke.
Why did the mushroom go to the party? Because he's a fun guy.
I love that joke. Do you get it? He's a fun guy. Like a fun guy. That is great.
It's great. It's great. It's KAWHI being an alien again. Once again, I'm convinced that KAWHI is just from like Venus, implanted here on Earth, telling us corny jokes and being weird.
I love that joke. I laughed, but look, Twitter they appreciate that, this was an intellectual corny joke. He says, some people don't understand that joke. It's also a play on words, and said, not surprising considering the majority of NBA Twitter is just fast food Twitter consisting of teen kids who just rip into players to feel a sense of community. Okay, I'm here for the shade, but I love the joke. It's a fun guy. Okay, one more. Okay, why can't you trust stairs? Devin, why can't you trust stairs?
Why can't you trust stairs? I have no idea.
Because they're always up to something.
Okay, I have one for you.
Okay.
What did I made this one up, so it's really bad.
Oh.
What did the carrot say to his friend who wasn't listening to him?
I don't know.
Don't you care at all?
Oh my God, Devin.
Stupid.
That was hilarious. Okay, all right, we're gonna move on because I feel like we're torturing some of you guys. But Kawhi, I love that joke. I thought it was great. So let's move on to this next one because now we're gonna do this. What did they say? This bad lip read. I love the commentators here. They're trying to figure out what PJ Tucker and Kevin Durant were saying to each other. Let's see. They had a more calm version. Let's see if we agree with the calm version of what they're saying. Take a look.
Well, you know that everybody in this league doesn't get fouled, and everybody in this league doesn't foul. You know that, right? That's how it goes.
I think that's exactly what PJ Tucker.
I don't know if it was that calm. Leo, can you play it again? I'm gonna do my version, and then we'll see what Twitter said. But I think I got a better version of how this whole started. Okay, Leo, run it again. All right, KD is like, look, don't put your hands on me, man. I'm way bigger than you. He's like, PJ's like, I don't care. You think you that big? See me outside. Catch me outside. He's like, I got your address. I got your phone number. I know where you live. I know where your mama stay. What you trying to say to me? So that's what I think they're saying. I think it's a little bit more confrontational than that. So that's what I think. Devin, what do you think?
Jackie, I have to say, I just prefer your version way more. I know where your mama lives. I know your address. I like that a lot. I like your version. I think it definitely was not very calm. You can tell by the way KD is moving his head around a lot. Like, he's not being calm about that at all.
Okay. Yeah. I know where your mama lives, though. That's what I think. I like this. What this Twitter user said. He has more of like a they're arguing about TV shows. Look, dude, The Wire is the best show of all time. All time? Come on, man. It's Breaking Bad. Better Call It Don't give me that retrospective BS with the Better Call Saul. The Wire exposed the world to the corruption of politics. Are we having a real... So this is the whole arguing about shows. I can actually see this argument. I have never... Anytime I tell somebody I've never seen one episode of The Wire or one episode of Breaking Bad... Emotions. People get very emotional. They get very upset with me. Like, you have not seen. I'm like, no. I've seen all the commercials. I've never seen one episode of The Wire or Breaking Bad. So yeah.
Jackie, welcome to my life. This is what happens to me on a weekly basis with various movies and TV shows. So yes, you know what it feels like. It's annoying.
Like, calm down. They're like, no, how could you? Calm down. And they'll say, oh, blah, blah, blah from The Wire. I'm like, I don't know who that is. So it's like, I think that's a legitimate one. But now look, let's go to this next one because this one it's funny, but not funny to me because I actually really like DeAndre Jordan. But every time, I swear, if you are watching the Nets, I feel like I could be exaggerating. Kevin Pryor, I know you're in the chat and you probably watch a lot more Nets game than I do. But I feel like every time DeAndre has the ball, the cameras zoom in onto James Harden to see his reaction because he just doesn't seem like he's a fan of DeAndre. And it's one of those things. So, the Nets lost again last night. They lost 124-118 to the Bucks, as we just talked about. James Harden has been out for like 15 games because of this hamstring strain. And here goes James Harden again with this look of, oh my God, DeAndre. Take a look.
Going up again, and
So, to be fair, though, this specific moment in time wasn't directed squarely at DeAndre. It was, I think Giannis was making yet another free throw shot, but it was one of those things because DeAndre wasn't really playing him right. So that's the point that I think these next users are getting at. So I have this next couple of tweets, and he said he did side off of Giannis for like the 6th time in a row while he was hot for 3. So that's part of it. And then this other user says he should have been in his face and make him go to the rim. He was hitting too many threes. After a while, you have to change up your game plan if it's not working, and it wasn't working. This is something we just talked about with Giannis, but now Giannis is on the receiving end of it. So in this game, it just wasn't going DeAndre's way. And this user, we're just moving all kinds of people today, says DeAndre should not be there next year. Not at all. He will keep us from winning the championship. He has exposed himself as unable to be a good defender. Now, his numbers have declined a little bit for a couple of years, but I don't know. I mean, Kevin, I know you're in the chat, so I want you to tell me, do you think that they should be getting rid of DeAndre? Because James Harden's face definitely says he's not entirely welcome. Devin, what do you think?
I mean, I think James Harden's face is sorry, it looked like we froze for a second. I was getting a little bit confused for a second. I feel like it definitely looks like James Harden is just sitting there like upset, disappointed, and frustrated for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you too. I'm also trying to figure out what JD's talking about because he added me and said they don't have beef. DJ missed 4 straight free throws. He's probably James Harden's lob partner. I didn't say anything about that. I didn't even comment on this yet, so I don't know where that's coming from.
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, so here's Kevin. He says Jordan is just there because he's friends with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So basically y'all not giving him no value. So okay. I mean, I like the guy. He definitely has declined. I don't know if I can attribute it to him specifically, or maybe it's just a bad fit in Brooklyn. I kind of feel like it's just a bad fit in Brooklyn more than it's him. But, we'll see. We'll see how this one plays out. So let's move on to this next one because we're getting back to some GOAT talk. So I want y'all to look at this tweet, which kind of shows this comment from Tom Brady. He says, I would 100%. And that was his answer to the question on if he would trade 2 Super Bowl rings to have that perfect 19-0 season and win that Super Bowl, that first one that he lost to Eli. Eli Manning has been the only person who could really do a good job with dethroning Tom Brady. Now when he's in this jersey, I hate Tom Brady. So I'm with Eli on this. Eli clapped back and he was like, never. As in, sir, you would have to redo that whole season and I'm still going to be there. And I don't care if it's a fumble or a helmet catch that I threw a bad pass on. We still winning that game. So Eli wants no parts of this at all. And you know what? I'm not mad at him. I think I have one crazy fan in here that says only Giants fans care about the time they beat Brady. Brady's losses will be a second thought in history. Everyone will talk about his wins. Does anyone care about how many times Magic Johnson lost? It's a totally different situation because I can guarantee you from here to and forevermore, Eli is going to be the guy that beat Tom Brady twice. That's his legacy. They're always going to talk about that because that's just the thing, right? Devin, What do you think?
Yes, I think that is his legacy because obviously it's been tough for a lot of people to beat Tom Brady, and he was able to do it twice. So that is his reputation to hold on to. I think it's a well-deserved honor, and I feel like it just goes to show that even Tom Brady agrees if he's willing to only be a 6-time Super Bowl winner in order to have that season. So obviously Tom Brady agrees with that sentiment.
I think so too. And I see Kevin Lang in the chat, and he says the Tuck rule is delusional. But this, I agree. But that makes me feel like Raider fans are also always going to remember Eli winning because they hate that, that Tuck rule basically took away their chances at going to the Super Bowl. So Raider fans, Giants fans, everyone who hated, Tom Brady in New England, we're all going to remember that in time. It's not just Giants fans, but good try there, my guy. Good try. This next one, though, There's my mom used to always say you got to train up a child in the way that you want them to go. So I don't know a lot about Drake's baby's mama. I don't know much about her at all. I don't even know her name. But I do know this. She is a fantastic mother, and she is allowing her son to kind of embrace the greatness, and I love her for it. Take a look.
Player in the game, take the game-winning three. James steps through, finds Death here. Great block inside by Sean Williams. What a pass by James to Death here. Oh, wow.
How about that? LeBron knew exactly where his teammate was. He made the steal and the pass all in one motion.
With 4 seconds left, Butler denied by James, and Smith calls a timeout.
Oh my God!
Here he comes. He timed it perfectly. No foul involved.
He's like, do you see the greatness of King James? Do you see this, mother? Do you see? I love this child. This is my new favorite child. And the funny thing is every time we go off on the fumble, because I have the YouTube up right now, as soon as the fumble goes off, this series comes up. The Miami Heat series with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James comes up, because I watch that like twice a week, every week. It's one of my favorite things to watch. That, and then the 2016 where they come back from that 3-1 deficit. I play those on repeat. This is a good child. This child is going to go on and accomplish great things. No, even if it's not basketball, great things, because he can spot greatness. This is a genius child. Devin, do you have any thoughts?
I have a question for you, Jackie, and it's going to be a bit of a personal one. Are you Drake's baby
ready.
mama?
No, but if it would make sense. I see how you arrive there. It would make sense, but no, I'm not. I'm not opposed to being Drake's baby's mama, because I love me some Drake, but this one is not mine.
I do want to say I thought it was Drake showing the kid the video, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But regardless, I like that they're teaching him young. They're showing him what greatness is. He's going to be a bronsexual as he gets older, so that's great.
Yeah, and the only reason I thought it was mom is because of the giggle that I heard when he turned and gave the look like, do you see this? I heard a female's voice giggling. So maybe it's not mom, maybe it's Drake, maybe it's I don't know. But there was a woman in the room. Either way, whoever is raising this child, I just want you to know you have my stamp of approval. This is some fantastic parenting that's going on. I'm very proud of everything you guys are doing in that household, and keep it up. All right, now let's move on to the next one, because we're going to move on to another somebody that I like a lot, and that's Aqib Talib. He was my guy, especially when he was playing for Denver. I'm a huge fan of that moment in time where he snatched Michael Crabtree's chain. that is just a thing to me that will always live rent-free in my brain, and I love that moment in time. He retired in September of last year, if you guys didn't know that, and now he has a podcast where he's obviously bringing on other athletes. So now he's invited on Marcus Peters to the show. Now, if you guys remember Marcus Peters, he was with the Rams. He was a cornerback with the Rams. At the same time, Aqib Talib was there. So they were, on the team. So then obviously Marcus Peters was gone because they brought in Jalen Ramsey. Now, he feels some type of way about this. Obviously, I think Jalen Ramsey is the better cornerback. I don't even think there's no one on the planet who would disagree with me on that one. However, I think I kind of agree with him. Just take a listen.
I was pissed off more so because I'm at
So you was pissed off?
Oh, yeah, fuck them. That's how I was feeling, and I'm still feeling like that because I felt disrespected in the sense of, yeah, y'all can trade me. That's a part of the business. But 2 minutes after that, you bring in another guy who do the same shit I do, maybe a little bit different. If we play this compare game, I do a little bit more. That shit was disrespectful to me. If we hung on a little bit more, we had a chip year that year too. I don't think we was the problem. I don't think that we were the issue that was holding the Rams back from taking the steps of where we needed to get to.
Now that's the part that I agree with. I do not think that they were the problem. And I understand that, it's business. I didn't have any problem with this trade that, brought in Jalen Ramsey outside of the fact that you kind of tanked your possibilities to get really good talent in the draft. But that part of his statement, I do agree with. I don't think that Marcus Peters or Aqib Talib were the problems that the Rams were facing. And I think other people agree with that as well, because we got some tweets that kind of say, all right, well, and I think people are kind of focused in on that last comment, because he says, I actually agree with Marcus Peters, and Ramsey is a stud. They could have ran it with all three at that year at least. He should have been pissed. I still got his Rams jersey in my closet, though, all love. So, maybe if they would have stayed, he would have stayed there. His point is, like, you traded me, and then not even when the ink is dry, you bring in somebody else. Maybe they could have had a good run together. Maybe. And I do agree that that's not, whatever's happening in that situation is not the deep-rooted problem that is with the Rams. And so then we have another user who kind of says, look, the Rams' subsequent failures prove his point. I'm just saying. So, yeah, there's a lot of problems. I think if you want to kind of make a list of the problems that the LA Rams have, the list is very, very long. And you could say Marcus Peters was not the problem. Jalen Ramsey wasn't the solution. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, are we going to get to the root of the problem, or are we not? I think, do I have one more tweet? I think I have one more tweet that kind of echoes his statement. But if I don't, that's fine. But I think he's got an excellent point in that you did me dirty. And he clearly has love for the Rams. People don't act like this. People don't go over the top like this unless they really love the team that they're playing on. But he is right in that last comment that him being traded did not solve any of their problems, because that wasn't the problem. But at the same time, I understand the whole Jalen Ramsey thing, like I said, outside of, betting the farm for it. So Kevin Pryor says, and this is the sentiment that everybody says, because it is a business. The NFL is a business. And that's why I always tell people this whole we want these players to be loyal thing is weird to me, because there's no team in the NFL or the NBA that's loyal to these players. So Kevin Pryor says the NFL equals not for long. Marcus needs to get over it. I agree. This is one of those things. It's business. You make sure you handle your business, because you should know at the end of the day that team is going to handle their business. But I think at the end of the day, that last point he made, he's spot on that one. So let's move on to this one, because this one is actually interesting. This is going to take me into another topic. But Patrick Mahomes has something to say about a situation that has come to light that, again, I'm going to get into this a little bit more, what we're not going to do, but he's appalled about this one. So this one is kind of jacked up when you kind of just look at it and you don't know the backstory. So Adam Schefter posted this to his Twitter, and it's kind of sad, because it says Broncos OT Jawan James suffered a season-ending torn Achilles working out today away from the team facility, per sources. James' $10 million salary for the upcoming season is now in jeopardy, being that Denver no longer is obligated to pay him with working out off-site. So if you guys don't know that, you're not supposed to, which is a weird thing. It really is a weird thing, because obviously this is a job where you have to be physically fit. So working out often is a thing, and you can't always get to the team facility. It's not always the most convenient to get to the team facility. You might have a trainer that's coming in to do some extra work with you that, that happens outside of when you can get to the facility. So it is a weird dynamic. So this first tweet that I have kind of has the wrong approach to this, because it says, would your job still pay you if you got hurt off site and could not do what they paid you to do? That's not the same thing, because if you work at In and Out, or if you work at, a retail, or in a waitress or something like that, that's not, your job isn't to be physically fit. Your job is to be there. So that's a little bit different. So I love what this user said. He said, I don't have to stay in tip-top shape for my job. That's a terrible argument. And it is a terrible argument. So Patrick Mahomes agrees. This is terrible. This is not a good thing that this man is now going to lose his money. He said, so they're going to take his contract for working out in the off season. And I appreciate what Patrick Mahomes is saying right here, because he understands, what this means. Guys get injured, especially in, the NFL and things of that nature. So I get what he's saying, but, and I hate to say this to you, Patrick Mahomes, you're wrong in this instant. And that's what's going to take us into what we not going to do, because this is a good topic to talk about, because I think a lot of times we kind of miss it. And you guys know 99.9% of the time I side with the athlete, because I understand the trials and tribulations that they have to go through. It's an uphill fight sometimes with these organizations. But in this specific situation, the Broncos should take his contract. And I don't mean that in a shady way. I understand this man is definitely providing for himself and his family, and it's a bad deal, right? But this is what we're not going to do. We're not going to forget that this is a job where you need to show up, because in theory, Juwan has not done that. And it's unfortunate because, they picked him up in, I believe it was 2019 is when they got him, right? And at that time, they signed a 4-year, $52 million deal with him because they wanted him to be their starting tackle, because they were having their starting right tackle, because they were having so many issues at that position. And they were like, hey, this is the guy that's going to come in and he's going to fix this all for us, right? So boom, that's great. 2019, we feel like we're on the right track, right? 3 games into that season, he has a knee injury that takes him out for the rest of the season. So he can't play the rest of the 2019 season. And this is where people got mad at me during the opt-out. And I said, if you opt out in 2020, you don't know what the following season is going to bring for you. Okay, so Juwan opted out. He opted out of the 2020 season. So he only played 3 games in 2019. He opted out of 2020. And now here we are going into the 2021 season. And again, he can't play. So that means $10 million, a 4-year, $52 million contract, and you've only played 3 games for me. So staying healthy is a skill set sometimes. And now we have you injured once when you could play. You decided not to play 1 year, and now we're going into another year and you can't play because you're injured. I can't continue to pay you for something that you can't do, and you've only done for me on 3 Sundays. I can't pay you for that. I have to get somebody else in here who can do this job. Now, perhaps, I do agree that teams should definitely want, especially when you're talking about a game that is as physical as the NFL, sure, you should want to help them through that injury. You need to make sure that they come back mentally prepared, because we've talked about that all the time. Sometimes guys might be physically able to play, but mentally they're still kind of stuck in that injury. Of course, I agree with all of that. But at the end of the day, I need somebody who can play this position. They already had to figure out how to move on without him in 2020 and 2019, even though they thought he was going to be ready in 2020. He decided not to play. No shade, but kind of shade, because now if the team shows that they can move on without you, you can't be out here getting injury. And there's a part of you that should have known that. You should have known that you only played 3 games in 2019. You decided not to play in 2020. You should do everything possible to stay healthy going into this season and just protect your money and only work out at the team facility, because had he done that, he would get this $10 million. So I get why everyone thinks, this is bad. The Broncos shouldn't do this. I don't know what you'll think the Broncos are supposed to do. They can't keep paying this guy to just chill at home. It's $10 million. No. So while this is unfortunate, and I appreciate Patrick Mahomes' stance on this, you cannot continue to pay this man. You need to redirect it and get somebody on that field that can help you in a position you already expressed you had a need at. I'm sorry. I know this is sad and unfortunate, but no, do not pay this man. Devin, what do you think about this?
Oh, God, this is a tough issue, Jackie, because on the one hand, I think we both feel so sorry for him. And it sucks to know that he's, probably was going in expecting to get that $10 million. And now it's just likely not going to happen. But we also know that he had to be aware of the rules, that he wouldn't get that money if he got injured off site. Now, if he was working out in one of their facilities, there would be no question if he was getting paid. And sure, that would have hurt the Broncos because it would have limited their ability to bring in somebody else. But if he wanted to protect his money, he should have just stuck to the rules. So I'm really sympathetic to his situation. I would hate to be going through what he's going through, but I think you're absolutely right when you say, staying healthy is a skill set. He's already not been able to play in as many games as he should have. And now this getting injured off site sucks, but you should have known. So it's hard for me. Yeah. I mean, I feel bad saying that because I just would absolutely hate to be in his shoes here. So yeah, I don't know. I also think, even though that comparison that you mentioned in that initial tweet about working offsite or whatever it was, or how would we get paid if we couldn't perform, and that's kind of the way business works. Even though that wasn't necessarily the best comparison, if either of us, what could happen that would prevent us from being here? had a face injury that prevented us from being able to go on camera or something, like we probably wouldn't be able to get paid either because we would have to bring in somebody else. And you gotta make sure that the system is fully functioning. And if you can't have your people there being a part of the team, then you don't get paid. I don't know. It's tough. I wish he could get at least a little bit. Like I wish that there was some sort of something written.
And that's the thing. He set himself up for this because had he played the 2020 season and been healthy during that season and played well, would the Broncos still be able to void his contract for getting injured off-site? Absolutely. Would they have if he actually played 2020 and played the whole season and played very, very well? Maybe, maybe not. But you haven't even put yourself in a position where they can evaluate what you did last season. The last time you were on the field was in 2019, and you only played 3 games then. And now you're in. No, there's no, you've done nothing to make them say, you know what, this is the rule, but we're going to go against it because you did this. He put himself in this position by not playing last season. And I knew there was going to be somebody that had a consequence like this because they decided not to play. It's unfortunate that it played out this way, but because he knew he didn't play last season, that's where my sympathy stops. Once you decide you're going to opt out of the 2020 season, you need to go by every single rule. If they say to be in bed at 9 o'clock, you need to be in bed at 8:59 just to make sure, because you haven't given them anything to see last season to really be on your side. So you need to be making everything right this season, and he didn't. So it sucks, but I think the Broncos would be doing the right thing if they voided his contract.
Yeah, and it's a shame to say that. But yeah, if he had been super productive and valuable, it probably wouldn't even be brought into question. Oh, I feel bad for him. I would really hate to be in that position. So it sucks, but you know, you got to think the NFL is a business. All of these sports leagues are a business, and they have to do what's going to get them the most in return. Jackie, we've got a couple minutes left of the show, so well, first of all, do you have any Cinco de Mayo plans happening tonight?
I do not. It sucks. Because I'm so used to going to like a Cinco de Mayo, like little dance or something like that. That's usually what I do. But I'm still not out of pandemic mode yet. I still order my groceries through Instacart. I don't do a whole lot. I got to get my mind out of. That's what I'm saying. See, it's not always just a physical injury. Sometimes it's mental. I'm still mentally stuck in the pandemic. I gotta look and see if there's any fun stuff to do.
Well, you could just go out for tacos. Honestly, that sounds like a lot of fun to me. That's probably what I'll do. I don't know. It depends on how long this headache stays with me today because I am still struggling right now, you guys.
Margaritas cure headaches. I can attest to that. They cure headaches.
Just got a worse one tomorrow. I'll wake up for the fumble and I'll be like hungover.
Maybe.
Okay, you guys, and then one final reminder that Jackie's show Challenge Accepted comes out today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you have to check that out. It's going to be great. 1 p.m. Mark it on your calendars. Set a timer, so that's just in a couple hours here, a few hours. And then also, you guys, I'm going to be having a show coming out soon. We don't have a date yet that it's coming out, but it is called Flagrant Friday, and I'm going to be breaking down all of the drama that you guys know I live for. So we're going to be getting into that. Whenever that comes out, I'll let you guys know, but that's happening at some point, hopefully soon. So you'll be seeing more of Jackie and I on the channel with some extra stuff coming out, which I'm so excited about. All right, you guys. Well, I think we can wrap up the show here today. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I hope you all have a safe and fun May 5th, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe, tap the bell, leave a comment below, and share this video with your friends. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.